The Hold Q Department. Unresolved. Chapter 1. First Day. Bad Timing Part 1. Arvind Kumar arrived 5 minutes early. He immediately distrusted himself for it. Nobody voluntarily reached a government office early unless life had already started making suspicious decisions on their behalf. He adjusted the strap of his worn black backpack and looked up. The National Emotional Support Center stood at the end of the road like it had been designed by someone who believed glass could solve human suffering. 12 floors of polished steel and reflective blue windows. Perfect symmetry. Perfect silence. Even the fountain outside flowed so smoothly, it looked rehearsed. People entered with tired faces. People left, smiling, not happy, just lighter. Too light. Arvind frowned for a second. Maybe this place actually helped people. Or maybe the architecture was just expensive enough to create hope. He started walking toward the entrance. A blur shot past him. Someone sprinted across the front steps, tripped over absolutely nothing, somehow recovered in midair like physics had remembered him at the last second, landed perfectly upright, and casually dusted off his shirt. Perfect landing, he announced proudly. I meant to do that. Arvind blinked. The stranger looked about 24, maybe 25. Slightly taller than Arvind, athletic without trying too hard, sleeves rolled up, tie already loose despite the day not having started. His hair clearly refused to cooperate with combs, and judging by the confidence in his grin, he had simply stopped arguing with it years ago. You knew too, he asked. Yeah. Fantastic. He extended his hand dramatically. I'm Rohan. Arvind shook it. Rohan nodded thoughtfully. I once shook hands with a Nobel Prize winner. Really? Yeah. I made him question his career. Arvind looked impressed. What did you tell him? That I was thinking of becoming an astronaut. Are you? No. Rohan shrugged. But he didn't need to know that. Arvind laughed despite himself. That happened surprisingly easily. Together they walked toward the massive revolving doors. For a brief second, the reflection in the glass looked wrong. Arvind could have sworn there were 3 people walking toward the entrance. He looked beside him. Only Rohan. When he glanced back, the reflection matched again. He told himself it was just the angle. The lobby was enormous. Marble floors polished, so clean they reflected the ceiling lights almost perfectly. Tall indoor plants lined both sides of the room. Soft instrumental music floated through hidden speakers. Digital screens displayed calming messages. You are safe here. Listening saves lives. Thank you for continuing to care. Everything about the place felt expensive, not luxurious, maintained. Like every object had been instructed to never make anyone uncomfortable. At the far end sat the reception desk. Above it, welcome desk. Please do not exceed emotional volume limits. Rohan leaned toward Arvind. She looks like she could cancel my childhood trauma using Microsoft Excel. Arvind covered a smile. Behind the desk sat a woman in her late 20s. Perfect posture. Perfect hair. Perfectly neutral expression. She looked less like a receptionist, and more like someone professionally licensed to deny emotional refunds. Rohan walked straight up. Good morning. She looked up. Name? Rohan. She waited. Full name? Rohan smiled. Rohan. Future astronaut. Probably. The receptionist stared. Then typed anyway. Arvind stepped forward. Arvind Kumar. She nodded. Welcome to the National Emotional Support Center. Rohan immediately leaned closer. That's a very ambitious name. It is the official name. What exactly do you emotionally support? Callers. Only callers? Yes. Rohan looked genuinely disappointed. I was hoping countries. Without changing expression, she slid 2 visitor badges across the desk. Orientation. 12th floor. As they turned away, Rohan whispered, I think she likes me. Arvind looked back. She hasn't changed her expression once. Exactly. That's emotional restraint. I respect commitment. They reached the elevator. It was already open. Waiting. No one inside. Rohan stepped in first. See, the building likes punctual people. The doors closed. Floor 1,
2, 3, 4.
The ride was completely silent. No music, no mechanical sound, just movement. Arvind frowned. Isn't this too quiet? Rohan listened. Huh. Maybe they soundproofed emotional elevators. Floor 7. The elevator stopped. Neither of them had pressed anything. The doors slid open. An empty corridor. Lights on. No people. No movement. No sound. Rohan leaned out. Hello. Nothing. He looked at Arvind. I think we accidentally arrived in the budget horror section. The doors closed again before either of them could step out. Neither of them pressed a button. The elevator resumed climbing. Floor 8,
9, 10.
11, 12. The doors opened normally. Employees walked past carrying coffee. Someone laughed in the distance. Phones rang. The strange silence was gone. Rohan looked back into the elevator. Well, that was emotionally suspicious. Arvind chuckled. It probably malfunctioned.
Sure.
But if I disappear later, mention floor 7. They stepped out. Neither of them noticed that the elevator display quietly changed. Instead of showing 12, it briefly displayed
Hold.
then returned to normal. The orientation room was already half full. Rows of desks, fresh folders, bottles of water placed with mathematical precision. A large digital screen displayed. Welcome, new recruits. At the front stood a man whose posture suggested he'd ironed his personality before coming to work. He smiled professionally. Welcome. You've been selected for one of the country's most important public service roles. Every day, thousands of people call this department during the most difficult moments of their lives. The trainer continued. You'll undergo intensive training in emotional containment protocols. The trainer began handing out folders. Please do not read beyond page 12 until instructed. Rohan immediately flipped to page 13. His smile disappeared. Oh. Arvind leaned closer. What? Rohan quietly turned the folder just enough for him to see. At the top of the page, if the system begins responding without input, remain calm. Below it, someone had placed a black sticker over the rest of the page, as if they weren't supposed to read any further. Rohan slowly closed the folder. I have follow-up questions. So, do I. Neither of them noticed that the welcome screen behind the trainer flickered for less than a second. The words, welcome, new recruits, were replaced by something else. Something no one in the room reacted to, because no one saw it. It said active participants detected. Then, just as quickly, the screen smiled again. Welcome, new recruits. If you've stayed until this moment, you're not just watching a story. You appreciate the details that most people miss. Thank you for being here. This was only the first layer of the hold queue. The questions have begun. The answers are still waiting. If this is the kind of world you want to keep returning to, make sure you're here when the next chapter unlocks. And if you believe stories like this deserve a place on YouTube, I'd be honored to have you subscribe. Until the line connects again, stay curious.